Okay, so we got some pretty wild comments here from Guy Boucher on RDS just a couple of days ago. He opened up a pretty big can of worms amongst Canadiens fans. And we're going to dive right into these comments. They are about slick Nick Suzuki. And since these comments were made, people are angry. They want to feed this guy to a pack of wild chihuahuas. But first, before we begin, if you're a fan of the Habs or you're pretty pissed off right now, then please consider subscribing to my channel as I upload a crap ton of hockey content and would really enjoy having some more of you grasshoppers tag along for the ride. Now, for those of you who've been living under a rock, or in my case, on a rock, Guy Boucher is a former NHL coach. This guy's most noticeable work was back when he was behind the bench with the Ottawa Senators and the Tampa Bay Lightning, and nowadays you kinda don't see him very often. Unless, of course, you regularly tune into RDS and you see him on there. That's right, this is exactly where his most recent comments went down. Special shout out to the boys over at Habs Fanatics here, they provided all the details. Let's dive in and take a look. With regards to Suzuki playing on the top line, quote, "Right now, it's because that's the Habs situation. We want to see him as a first-line center. On most teams, he's a second-line center, but if he's on a top team today, he's third-line center. In Tampa, he's third center in Colorado. In Toronto, he would clearly be behind Austin Matthews and John Tavares." Whoa. Now, drop the gun, okay? So what most people have taken away from this is that Boucher doesn't think Suzuki is a first-line center. And when you place him on a contending team, he drops down to a third-line center. Well, maybe on a contending team's bench, Boucher is the friggin' water boy. Okay. Now listen, before people jump all over Guy Boucher, let me try and defend him a little bit, okay? I want to start off by saying I don't even like Boucher, okay? We're not friends. I think he's a bit of a wienerhead. Now, could Boucher have chosen his words a little better during this segment? Yes, definitely. But when you do really break down word for word what he said, he's not entirely wrong, okay? He's about 50-50 here. His diaper is only half full of shit. In the top teams in the league, yes, he's kind of right. Suzuki would be fighting to be the second-line center on most of these teams, in my opinion as well. He's right. I mean, when we look at Tampa and Toronto and Colorado with a completely healthy lineup, hey, in these cases, the top six is pretty tough to crack. But when he says Suzuki is a second-line center on most teams in the NHL, that's a bit of an iffy comment, okay? There's a lot of shitty teams in the NHL right now on paper, and I think he's kind of underestimating how good of a player Suzuki actually is to date. Like, did you not watch the playoffs at all last year, Boucher? Come on! Now, Boucher wasn't done just there, because he would also say that Rem Pitlick is a fourth liner on most teams. And by the time his mouth closed, it was too late. He had already stepped on a hornet's nest, okay? Fans were pissed off, and with good reason. So now that you've heard Guy Boucher's comments, let me know what you think. Do you think that he was absolutely right on everything he said here? Do you think he was completely full of shit? Or do you think he was kind of 50-50, somewhere in between? Which is kind of where I am on this. Now, to elaborate a little more on Nick Suzuki himself, I personally think that, hey, he does have all the tools to be a top center in today's NHL. He is the most promising young kid on the Montreal Canadiens roster right now, in my opinion. And looking back, I mean, it's safe to say that Nick Suzuki's line was the top line offensively during the Stanley Cup playoffs for Montreal last year. Am I right? Who's going to argue with that? Come on. Yes, Feldinol did a fantastic job, doing Feldinol things, shutting down the top lines. But Nick Suzuki was the man. He was the bulk of the offense. He upped his game. He had 16 points in 22 playoff games during that run, and he was only 21 years old. So Boucher, sit down, alright? Just sit down and play with your thumbs for a little bit. As for this year, putting up 51 points in 70 games at just 22 years old as the number one center on one of the worst teams in the NHL is something to be proud of. He's trending up. He's money. Is he better than Nathan McKinnon? No. Is he better than Nazem Kadri this year? No. Is he better than Austin Matthews? No. Well, at least Suzuki remembers where the net is. But I'm telling you, he's a beaut. And I think he can be a point-per-game player in the future, given the right line mates to succeed. And I'll say this. I don't know about you guys, but am I ever happy to see Marty St. Louis behind the Canadiens bench right now? Okay, I was skeptical at the beginning. I really was. But he seems like he really enjoys using the young kids on the team, and he gives them opportunities to produce points. When there's a 3-on-3 overtime, he's not sending out Andreas Martinson, Steve Ott, and Dwight King, okay? He's sending out the youth. He's sending out the kids. He makes the games fun to watch. They're entertaining now, even when they lose. And I hope if Guy Boucher ever sends a resume into Jeff Gordon, I hope Gordon puts it between a couple of slices of bread and just eats it for lunch. Anyway, guys, that does it for this video. Don't forget to let me know your thoughts on this one down in the comment section. How do you feel about old Nick Suzuki? What do you think about Boucher's comments? Let me know all about it. Don't forget to assault the like button on the way out of here. And hey, I'll see you next time.